Hey, welcome to Crossroads. You all might have seen the articles where most of the establishment media have come out defending man-made rain. That's right. Apparently, cloud seeding has been a thing going on in many parts of the world, and the UAE is one of the main areas they're doing it as kind of the testing ground for the whole world. And a lot of people were like, what? For a lot of people, they didn't... Look, for a lot of people, they didn't even realize this was happening in the first place. And so for all the corporate media to kind of come out literally within 1 or 2 days of each other with articles almost across the board defending these practices came off as a bit of a shock. But let me explain. Systems to artificially induce rain, they call it cloud seeding, have come under scrutiny amid the heavy floods in the United Arab Emirates. You might have seen, for example, that large cities like Dubai, they're having record-breaking rainfall beyond recorded data, which started in about 1949. And amid this, people are saying, wow, this is a bit odd, and they're wondering whether the floods were impacted by maybe anomalies caused by maybe cloud seeding technologies that are in fact used very heavily in the UAE to cause rain. Now, you might have seen the reports from the corporate media. Basically, for the most part, they noted that cloud seeding operations to induce rain have been used for years in the UAE and also used to an extent in several parts of the United States and even other countries. But they denied that the floods in the UAE had any ties to this. The basic premise for them writing it off is that the UAE's National Center of Meteorology contacted several news outlets to tell them that they were not doing those operations during this particular rainstorm. And they claimed these storms were just, too big to be caused by this type of technology. Take it for what you will. Let me show you what some of the media were saying. This is CNN. CNN said, further in, officials at the country's National Center of Meteorology have been cited as saying the rain was not caused by cloud seeding. They say CNN has reached out for the Center for comment, but even if the program did fly its planes through the sky leading up to the storm, it's exceedingly unlikely the efforts would have produced more rain than was going to fall naturally. That's also kind of not true because the entire purpose of cloud seeding is to get more rain, not to just make it rain when you want to. So it's a bit of misunderstanding here, but I'll explain all of this. Now, The Guardian said this. They said, in a statement issued to multiple news outlets, so they reached out to them, the NCM, again, that meteorology agency in the UAE, they say, which oversees cloud seeding operations in the UAE, said there were no such cloud seeding operations before or during the storm. The individual in charge of it, Omar Al-Yazidi, the Deputy Director General of the MCM, said, quote, we did not engage in any seeding operations during this particular weather event. The essence of cloud seeding lies in targeting clouds at earlier stages prior to precipitation. Engaging in seeding activities during a severe thunderstorm scenario would prove futile. Now, I challenge their framing of saying before or during, because in this quote, he's saying during, but in the way they frame it, they say before as well. So I kind of wonder how they're framing it. But regardless, they say that experts, meanwhile, have debunked, they claim, the cloud seeding theory. One of them, Martin Abam, a professor of atmospheric physics and dynamics at the University of Reading, said that, quote, cloud seeding, certainly in the Emirates, is used for clouds that don't normally produce rain. You would not normally develop a very severe storm out of that. Now, I'd note that that's not quite absolute. There actually have been pretty serious storms caused by cloud seeding, historically documented, for example, in the UK, which I'll get into. But look, other scientists, basically, they spoke with, claim that it could not have been caused by cloud seeding because rainfall has been getting heavier around the world because of climate change. And so it's more of a climate change narrative they're going with. Others say that cloud seeding cannot create clouds from nothing, so it just couldn't happen, basically. But what's even more interesting to me is that some of the initial articles actually claimed otherwise. For example, I'll show you one right now. It has since been altered. They've changed this article. First, let me show you what it currently says. If you were to go to this link, this is what you'd see from Bloomberg. Bloomberg said, Dubai grants to stand still as flooding hits city residents, bailout apartments, underground car parks flooded. Rain disrupts transport systems and closes UAE schools. And they say the floods came after one of the worst storms in decades. The government had seeded clouds in the preceding days. Though meteorologists said it was unlikely that it had significant impact on the rainfall, the UAE has been carrying out seeding operations since 2002 to address water security issues, even though the lack of drainage in many areas can trigger flooding. Now, before I go deeper into this, let me just point something out. Didn't the article I showed you just a minute ago say that they did not conduct cloud seeding activities before or during the storm? But now Bloomberg is saying they actually did do it before the storm. That's kind of weird, right? They said again that they had been carrying out seeding operations since 2002, but they note that they had done this. They had, quote, right, the government, this is the exact quote, had seeded clouds in the preceding days. Does that not contradict the other reports coming out? But, back to this article and the other things with it, this article has actually been altered. We have the web archives. Let me show you what that exact same link, that exact same article used to say. This is the original one. Bloomberg, this is the original headline. Dubai grands to standstill as cloud seeding worsens flooding. Seeding planes used to take advantage of low-pressure systems. Heavy rain disrupts transport systems and closes UAE schools. And the other paragraph, the second paragraph, says this: the heavy rains that caused widespread flooding across a desert nation stemmed partly from cloud seeding. The UAE started cloud seeding operations in 2002 to address water security issues, even though the lack of drainage in many areas can trigger flooding. So they altered the article. And the article, even the current one, contradicts reporting from other media. They can't seem to make up their mind, in other words. One of the issues you have, of course, with cloud seeding is that it's a long-term program. They're doing it for years. They increased the programs seriously, massively, over the last couple years in the UAE. And if you do it right after a drought, the ground cannot properly absorb it and you get flooding. But regardless, right? This article, the Bloomberg one, aside from contradicting even in its current form some of the other reporting, noting that the UAE did in fact conduct cloud seeding operations before this, they also changed the headline, and they changed the first bullet point below the headline that noted the impact of cloud seeding, where they said it contributed to it, i.e. it was not the sole cause. But they also changed the second paragraph and other things that explained what happened. I find this all very interesting, and frankly it makes me really wonder why they changed it, and why all the other corporate media actually started parroting the exact same narrative within 1 day or 2 days of each other, saying that cloud seeding wasn't the cause. They all came out almost at the same time with the exact same narrative. Now, look, the way corporate media are framing this is that basically there's just a total agreement that cloud seeding was not a cause, and that anyone who says otherwise is a conspiracy theorist. But as we can see in the web archives, originally it doesn't seem they actually believed it was so far-fetched. In fact, many of them reported that that was the cause, or one of the contributing causes, which means, of course, it went through a reporter, it went through an editor, and it was able to be published on the website. Now, I'll be talking about this more and the potential weaponization of weather modification, actually why it's illegal, after a quick word from our sponsor.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Hey, welcome back. The United Arab Emirates has systems to modify the weather and artificially induce rain, and this has come under scrutiny amid the heavy floods there. Now, first off, on the possible risk of weather modification like this. Look, contrary to many claims going around right now suggesting that cloud seeding cannot lead to serious storms or floods, there actually have been cases where it's done this. In fact, people have died from it. There are still different takes on this, but it's important to note. This is actually one of the reasons why some of the experiments with this technology were canceled in the United Kingdom because of the danger of it. The Guardian reported this way back in 2001, and they say this: on August 15th, 1952, one of the worst flash floods ever to have occurred in Britain swept through the Devon village of Lynmouth. 35 people died as a torrent of 90 million tons of water and thousands of tons of rock poured off saturated Exmoor and into the village, destroying homes, bridges, shops, and hotels. The disaster was officially termed the Hand of God. But new evidence from previously classified government files back in 2001 suggests that a team of international scientists working with the Royal Air Force, the RAF, was experimenting with artificial rainmaking in southern Britain the same week and could possibly be implicated. It notes that squadron leader Len Otley, who was working on what was known as Operation Cumulus, has told the BBC that they jokingly referred to the rainmaking exercise as Operation Witch Doctor. Now, this operation, Operation Cumulus, was put on hold indefinitely after the tragedy. It notes that declassified minutes from an Air Ministry meeting held in the War Office on November 3rd, 1953, and remember, these were declassified around 2001, show why the military were interested in increasing rain and snow by artificial means. The list of possible uses, including bogging down enemy movement, incrementing the water flow in rivers and streams to hinder or stop enemy crossings, and clearing fog from airfields. The documents also talk of rainmaking having the potential to explode an atomic weapon in a seeding storm system or cloud. This would produce a far wider area of radioactive contamination than a normal atomic explosion. But it notes further in that controversy still surrounds the efficacy of these early cloud seeding experiments. They say in 1955, questions were asked in the Commons about the possibilities of liability and compensation claims. Documents seen by the BBC suggest that both the Air Ministry and the Treasury became very anxious and were aware that rainmaking could cause damage, not just to military targets and personnel, but also to civilians. So the government covered it up in the UK. They admitted it finally when they declassified the documents many decades later in 2001. But I would argue that if they covered it up in one country, why would you trust it in another country, especially when there's conflicting reports about them carrying out the same type of operations right before a devastating storm? So look, cloud seeding, though, has historically been known to be able to cause devastating floods. It was put on hold in the UK because of this undeniable fact. The dangers of it are known. In fact, they were talking about weaponizing it. There was talk of how to use this as a weapon of war again. So, of course, we could argue there's more rain in the UK, and so, maybe there's more risk of causing a flood if you mess with the rain clouds there. You take it as you will. But there's also the weaponization side. The ability to weaponize these types of technology is why a United Nations agreement to ban these technologies during conflicts are in place. Let me show you the actual United Nations document on this. This is the United Nations website. This is the H1 Convention on the Prohibition of Military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques, also known as NMOD. It says further in, the problem of artificial modification of the environment for military or other hostile purposes was brought to the international agenda in the early 1970s. In July 1974, USA and USSR agreed to hold bilateral discussions on measures to overcome the dangers of the use of environmental modification techniques for military purposes, and 3 subsequent rounds of discussions in 1974 and 1975. They note that in August of 1975, USA and USSR tabled identical draft texts of a convention of the conference at the conference of the Committee on Disarmament, the CCD, where intensive negotiations resulted in a modified text and understanding regarding 4 articles of this convention in 1976. And it should be noted, both countries were experimenting with weather modification weapons. In fact, the American system, Operation Popeye, was used in Vietnam. Now, on this, though, there are a lot of different ideas on how these technologies could be weaponized. Some of them are like what was discussed in the UK, flooding, for example, and other things. One of the ways most commonly talked about these days would be able to induce rain in one country to deny rainfall in another. Basically, you dry another country out and you make it so they don't have water. But as we mentioned earlier, there are a lot of ways it was discussed as being used as a weapon. But back to the programs overall. It should be noted that cloud seeding is already used in many parts of the United States. This is actually not as uncommon as people might think it is. They do this pretty actively. They don't quite talk about it publicly as much. You do find some scientific articles on it and so on. But this is actually relatively common. I'll be talking more about this, though, only on Epoch TV, our uncensored streaming platform that brings you hard-hitting and truthful reporting. We dare to cover stories that corporate media will not give airtime to, or that they actually, actively change the narrative of, or even suppress or selectively edit. What I showed you today was an example of that. So if you want truthful reporting, join us at epochtv.com. You get access not only to my full episodes, but also to the many documentaries and special reports that I've done and been consistently ahead of the curve on. For example, my reporting on what really took place on January 6th. All that is now coming to light. Everything we reported is now being shown to be true. And the Epoch Times has been at the forefront of that reporting. We have premium articles as well, special features, and even documentaries on what took place that day and the aftermath. So for those of you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, if you want access to all of that, make sure to click on the link in the description below and join us on epochtv.com. Now, before we jump exclusively to epochtv.com for the rest of this episode, I'll show you a trailer for our most recent documentary on January 6th. It's called The Real Story of January 6th Part 2, The Long Road Home.
Calling the January 6th investigation the biggest investigation in FBI history.
There are more than 1,100 arrests, and they show no signs of slowing down.
When you take an oath, you have to abide by it.
They're just going to identify you on video, arrest you, and then figure out what the evidence is after that.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man, and he has been punished for something that he never did. Every day you wake up and you're like, how did I get out of bed today?
You have to stay away from the word patriot now because that's a terrorist organization.
We interviewed 2 whistleblowers from the FBI.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
That siege was criminal behavior, plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism.
We started with death threats, the hate mail.
I don't care what they do to me, but I do care what they do to my family.
Our family struggles every day.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.